There have always been individuals that claim to be better or worse off than others. Some are categorized as poor and some are labeled as wealthy. The criteria for distinction remains unclear. How about we start off with an example? Let's say you're here, your friend Catherine is there, and her friend Chris is there. You're a healthy individual, you rent an apartment in a small town, and you buy healthy but cheap groceries. You're a cashier with a yearly salary of $12,000, and you're married to a partner who is a part-time retail worker with a yearly salary of $11,000. That makes a total of $23,000. Your partner watches your two children on days he does not work. Catherine, on the other hand, is a stay-at-home mom. Her partner is an investment banker making $150,000 a year and doesn't need to work to sustain her family of four. Chris works at a supermarket during the day and takes the night shifts as a custodian at the local high school. He supports his long-term, now pregnant girlfriend and 5-year-old son. She has decided not to work during the pregnancy and is no longer providing the household with income. Additionally, he is addicted to smoking and struggles with diabetes and the costs associated with it. He makes $30,000 altogether. Who would you consider the poorest?
Before addressing this question, let's take a look at how the United States defines poverty. Since the 1960s, the United States has defined poverty using the Official Poverty Measure, or OPM. This measures poverty by taking a look at different family sizes and compositions in each family unit's gross annual pre-tax income. It does not include any near-cash benefits such as SNAP and EITC. Additionally, this measure was to represent the cost of a basic diet multiplied by 3. Given this definition, since your household makes the least amount of money, taking family composition into your account, you would be the poorest and Catherine would be the wealthiest. Alternatively, the SPM is a recently developed measurement with a more holistic approach of capturing the reality of poverty. It takes into account in-kind benefits such as SNAP and near-cash benefits such as earned income tax credit that the OPM misses. The threshold is calculated by taking a basket of amenities such as food, shelter, clothing, and utilities at the 33rd percentile and multiplying it by 1.2. The SPM takes care of geographical variations and different family structures such as cohabitation. In this case, Chris would be considered the poorest individual because his girlfriend and unborn child would be taken into consideration when determining the extent of his poverty. Yet, we believe that both alternatives remain flawed and propose a new approach for addressing poverty. The mentioned alternatives lack emphasis on human dignity and fail to consider conditionals that may hinder the financial stability of an individual. It is not enough to segregate individuals that fall above or below an aggregated statistically based threshold. As social creatures, people may run into situations that cannot be mathematically accounted for in a single value. There are unpredictable events that may limit disposable income as they consequently impact the individual's ability to function in society. Borrowing ideas from Sen and Nussbaum, we believe that poverty is the systematic struggle to pay for adequate amenities such as nutritious food, robust shelter, basic utilities that sufficiently support the household, all while participating in a minimally social life.
These issues arise from the inhibition of certain capabilities, which prevents an individual from meeting fundamental needs at an acceptable level. Moreover, the acceptability of the capabilities maintained must follow a dignified nature. For example, an individual's needs may be provided by the government, but if the government demanded that they only purchase certain goods with the amount allotted, an individual's basic autonomy is compromised. For that reason, welfare distribution made to correct deficiencies in capabilities must not only alleviate poverty objectively, but must expand beyond utility and preserve the dignity of the individual. Capabilities may stem into two transitive categories, internal and combined. An internal capability refers to an individual's capacity to do something, while combined capabilities refers to the ability to do something given the economic, social, and political liberties allocated to him or her. Both capabilities implicate each other upon execution, and that An individual may have the internal capabilities to do something, but not the combined capabilities to facilitate a desired goal. Vice versa, an individual may have the combined capabilities to achieve a goal, but may lack the internal capabilities to pursue it because he or she may be discouraged to do so because of external influence.
With this in mind, the objective is to maintain the individual's dignity and encourage a gratifying life. Ultimately, by using this definition, a better measurement of poverty can be acquired.
Let's focus on Chris's financial situation. Remember, Chris works 2 jobs and makes $30,000 per year. He has a young son and an unemployed girlfriend that is currently pregnant. He is a heavy smoker and needs to pay for additional medical costs associated with his diabetes. According to the first facet of our definition, considerations for the capacity to pay for basic amenities such as utilities, food, shelter, and clothing should be made. Provided Chris's income, medical issues, and addiction, it can be assumed that he experiences some kind of struggle in keeping up with his payments. Therefore, it is not unlikely that he has faced some insecurity in paying his bills in a timely manner, and the psychological impact of the sheer volume of payments should be accounted for in our model of poverty. The fact that Chris is addicted to cigarettes may imply a coping mechanism for the stress of his life, and the addiction itself and the implications it has on someone's life should be kept in mind.
Furthermore, even if Chris were to make more than enough to sustain his family, the likelihood of him making a high discount investment, such as enrolling in vocational school, is very low. Despite having the combined capabilities of paying for his tuition, and let's say for the purpose of this example, he had adequate time to contribute to his studies and a means of attending the institution, he lacks the internal capabilities to invest in himself. With a vocational certificate, he may drastically improve his lifestyle. Yet, when an individual is exhausted from work and has extra money in his pocket because of his labor, he or she will want to rest instead of exerting more energy on high-risk investments.
Additionally, it is important to recognize the limitations in capacity for an individual to effectively support the household. To do so, a proper evaluation of the needs of the household should be completed, which demand the acknowledgement of all members living under the same roof. Although Chris is not married to his girlfriend, she still relies on his financial contribution. Moreover, the capacity of the household members should be assessed, keeping in mind Chris's girlfriend's pregnancy and the implicit costs associated. The second part of our definition highlights concern for an individual's social life. For an individual to preserve his dignity as a member of a social society, he must be able to participate in activities that bring enjoyment outside the household. In the case of our example, we want to ensure that Chris is not only meeting his financial obligations, but that he is also experiencing a fulfillful life. Since he works 2 jobs, he is unable to enjoy time with his family and participate in social activities. To address this, it is important that any inquiries regarding welfare ask the applicant about the amount of time they spend weekly participating in recreational activities, such as going to the movies or eating out for dinner. The application should also consider the amount of time spent working per week to gauge an idea of how much work consumes the individual's life. All of this would be considered against the individual's income.
We recognize that this definition may understate absolute poverty, which refers to the persistent lack of basic needs. Rector argues that by placing significance upon comparative disadvantage or relative poverty, the needs of the poorest in the country may be belittled. Although this is a valid argument, it is important to elevate the dignity of all individuals that have faced financial insecurity. If a woman is forced into selling her body in order to pay for her bills and ends up with a surplus of cash to spend on other goods, this does not mean that she no longer faces poverty. It means that she has made a tragic choice to exchange agency over her body in order to meet monetary demands. Poverty of all forms is a very serious concern for America and should not be discerned hierarchically.
A defined threshold does not take into consideration the differences in capabilities in which an individual has the potential to hold. Moreover, the inability to advance economic classes may be greatly hindered by obstructions of internal and combined capabilities. thus systemizing poverty. Ultimately, individuals experiencing poverty are just as predisposed to the same challenges wealthier people encounter in their lives, and it is unjust to deprive them of dignity because of their impoverished state. The distribution of welfare should not oppress the voices of the poor, but rather should provide them with the resources necessary for an improved standard of living.
The goal of understanding poverty is not only to measure and define it, but to also prevent its perpetuation. Although not without any fallacies, it is our intention that our model for measuring poverty will consider external and internal factors that have traditionally been overlooked by welfare policymakers.